Come seeker, come traveler, come all humankind, online or in person, whomever you love.
I only have one job, and that's to keep these pages straight, and I've already screwed up, so relax, people. Come and be welcome at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Cheyenne. We were a building community of refuge and a beacon, where all have equal worth and are invited into spiritual exploration as a foundation for hope, compassionate service, and action.
This is a place where questions are encouraged, a place with room for all of who you are.
This is a place full of works in progress, a place for being human together.
Welcome. It is good to be here.
Settle in and exhale. This is a time for community.
And now we invite Brigitte.
Good morning. I am Brigitte Paul, and I am the past president of your board again. Soon to not have that position, I'm pretty sure, but I am happy and here, and I'm welcoming you to this church where we are on a shared journey to find meaning, connection, and community together. If you are new, please fill out a welcome card from the pew box and drop it in the offering basket so we may share information with you and find what nourishes your spirit here. There are note cards in your pew for written joys and concerns for the pastoral prayer. We pass a square basket during the offering to gather these, so you can write your name or remain anonymous, or write "do not share" on the card if there's something that you want held in care by our ministerial team of people stepping in until we have more ministerial definition moving forward, and the pastoral team, but not spoken aloud. Many activities and events happen each week in this community, and here are a few things coming up. I took one of them off the list because I was supposed to tell you Happy Independence Day, but I'm guessing that's why we have less people here today, because Independence Day was pretty exhausting yesterday for many of us. So welcome to the first year of the 251 upcoming birthday of America. Currently, we have no church hours this week. We're hoping all that changes the week after that, but if you have any needs or any issues, you can reach out to board members and we will get those pieces of information where they need to be. Later on today, Beth will be here. She's going to come kind of after the service, but she also does Mindful Monday meditation, and that's the first Monday of every month, and it starts at 6, it goes from 6 to 7:30, and upstairs for new people who want to wander around and look at things later, we have a meditation room upstairs, and that's where a lot of our meditation services happen, or places where we can go and comfortably sit and do that together. Let's see. And now it's kind of the Brigitte show because I'm doing the offering ask too today. And so I think all of you know that we do share the plate at our church monthly. So there are organizations chosen by a team, and we donate. And at the end of the month, we take half of those donations and do it with the group that we're working with, and half come back to the church. So this month, we are really excited to do fire. And I don't believe I need to spend a lot of time talking because of all the things that go on around here. I think everybody in this room gets fire fatigue because we get stuff from, if you're on our fire list, but then because the UUCC houses the fire ministry, you're also getting information in the daily or in the weekly newsletters that come out quite a bit. I want you to know that we live on the continuing tradition of immigration justice that this church has done for a very long time. It started early on, and we have a family here today who's kind of been with us for a very long time. And Irma was initially picked up in a raid at Little America. And Sandy and Carol Pascal started all kinds of the framework that we live on today. And for those of you that may or may not remember, we took Irma's children to her to visit her while she was in detention. And then when legislation changed again and we looked at how do we take people who were brought here when they were too young to make any decisions for themselves and help them so that they can get a job and move forward with their lives, DACA was started. The sad thing about DACA was it was built, but then there was no pathway that was continued in the structural build to have people earn their citizenship. So they live in DACA perpetuity. And so we have Laura here with us today, who Sandy, I know, helped you sign up for DACA. And now we're in a situation where DACA paperwork's that, like, the goal now is to throw sand in every machine that does anything that helps anything with immigration in this country. And what should be a month-long or a 2-month-long process has turned into a 6-month-long process. And because of the history in this family of trauma and detention and self-deportation, because Laura's family doesn't have their grandmother with them right now, because instead of going through all of this again, she chose to deport back to Mexico. So Laura doesn't want to drive. Laura doesn't want to be a passenger in a car. All of that is dangerous to her because without that paperwork, without her DACA paperwork, she could put her daughters in jeopardy. So I'm super happy that she's here. We love to give rides, so anytime she needs rides. She also has a really good network of friends that have been supportive and helpful of all of that. But that is what we continue to move through. We had started FIRE as a way to do sanctuary again because we had done sanctuary in the past. But it became fairly obvious that that was not going to be the path forward for this time around. And so we have pivoted, and we are doing the best that we can to allow people to be less traumatized than they already are in an entire situation. So Laura is here. We also have Brittany and Jose here. We worked with them around Easter time. So we filled their pantry. We helped get things situated, and Jose is home. And he was home after a 110-day detention that was illegal and should have never happened in the first place. So what you donate helps us to do that work. We're also going to kick off a campaign today. Sheriff Kozak said when his last article came out in WyoFile about a month ago or 6 weeks ago that he had heard from us. He's heard and seen our postcards that we have sent in stating that we don't like the 287G agreements. We don't think they're making our community safe. We don't think they're helping. But he said he hasn't heard from people. He's heard from our group, but he hasn't heard from people. So July starts a new campaign where we have taken quotes from many people impacted by what has happened, and we overlaid them on the Chispa celebration from 2025 from this year, and we are going to send them to county commissioners and sheriffs, and we're going to share exact quotes from people in this county expressing how they feel about the 287G and how it's impacted their life. So join us after service to make some more red cards. There's a lot of roofing companies. We keep passing them out. We drop them off at places where we know people will need them, and we can always make more. And find some postcards and let people know what you think. And if you have a group outside of the church that you're involved in that you think we might be able to come with 10 or 20 postcards, please do that. Let us know, and we'll come facilitate that for you guys. So that's all I have to say.
This gift of generosity is gratefully received for the work of the community within and beyond our walls. Today's call to worship is Caged Bird by Maya Angelou. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends and dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through the bars of his rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on the dawn-bright lawn, and he names the sky as his own. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown, but longed for still. And his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. For our opening hymn, I invite you to open your teal hymnals and rise in body or spirit to join us in singing number 1009, Meditation on Breathing.
We'll start with the drone for a couple of measures, a couple of times through, and then we'll sing the, then anybody who wants can stay on the drone with Andy, and I'll be on the melody, and if you know the descant, you're welcome to join in. Breathe out, breathe. Breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll bring in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
Yes. I didn't know what a drone was, but I've been accused of droning on and on, so I thought it was fitting. Aware of the suffering that is brought about when we impose our views on others, we are determined not to force others, even our children, by any means whatsoever, such as authority, threat, money, propaganda, or indoctrination, to adopt our views. We are committed to respecting the rights of other people to be different and to choose what to believe and how to decide. We will, however, learn to help others let go and transform the fanaticism and narrowness of thought through loving speech and compassionate dialogue. Will you now join me in a spirit of prayer? Spirit of life and love, together to be with one another, to offer comfort in hard times, to celebrate together our joyful moments and to dwell together in the wonder and mystery of this ever-changing life. And may we spirit that gives us compassion, spirit that gives us insight, spirit that turns our experience into wisdom, that causes us to listen deeper than words, that weaves together through our action and our compassion and our love, a community that is strong and that will stand. And as we celebrate freedom today, freedom of our country, let us soak deeper into the meanings of freedom and open our heart for the message that whatever you are is going to say to us. Amen.
If the young or young at heart wish to join us on the chancel at this time, we invite you to share in the leadership of speaking our covenant in unison before our time for all ages. The words to our covenant may be found on the inside cover of your order of worship. And we begin.
Love is the cheer of this church. Service its cause. This is our covenant. To dwell together, seek truth, and to help others.
All right, you're up for story time, Andy.
All right, appreciate the cue. I'm going to need somebody to have cue cards that says, Andy, do this now, out in the audience, so I kind of keep track. Good morning. We're going to talk today about a lot of different kinds of freedom. And there's all different areas where we can exhibit our freedom. Our freedom in the world, our freedom in our community, in our country, in our town, in our house, in our home, in our family, and in ourselves. And the particular freedom that I want to celebrate in this congregation today with the young people that I find to be at the very core of part of who we are is the freedom to be who we are. There are many people out in this world who are not true to who they are in their beliefs, in their politics, in their orientation, in their gender. They feel an oppression, a hiding, a secrecy. And today, with the young people, I would like to celebrate that this is the core of the freedom that is one of the foundations of this congregation. The other thing is, I do want to recollect a little bit of history. So people have heard of the free at last, Lord Almighty, free at last speech that Martin Luther King gave on the national, whatever you call that, the mall, with crowds of people in a world-changing speech. What we oftentimes don't realize or haven't learned as children, that preceded by the March on Selma, where they were beaten to the ground and stomped by horses. And I think we need to take heart. They say that the price of freedom isn't free. And normally we think about soldiers, which we should, because they give their lives and their futures sometimes in defense of the country as best they can. But the freedom to do the responsible thing is also a part of that journey, and that's not free either. It takes our time, our energy, our willingness to stand out and to take risks, to write letters to politicians, to do the next right thing. So there is points of joy and high water and moments of freedom, and there are also times of service and darkness. And I just think we ought to be present to that as well. With that, we will end the children's service.
Good morning. So, I'd like to begin with a simple question, one that may be more difficult than it first appears. Are we really free? We live in a culture that celebrates freedom. We speak of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of choice, freedom to pursue our dreams for some of us. But many of us have been taught that freedom means having more options, fewer restrictions, and the ability to do whatever we want. And yet, most of us still know what it feels like to be trapped. The outer world is in turmoil. We live through political division, economic uncertainty, violence, climate anxiety, and constant streams of information competing for our attention. These are dark and unsettling times. It is easy to believe that if only the world were different, then we could finally be at peace. But what if we could find a different perspective? One that suggests that while we cannot always control the conditions around us, there is another kind of freedom that no circumstance can guarantee or take away. A perspective that believes the deepest freedom is not freedom from inconvenience or difficulty, but rather it is the freedom of suffering born of our own minds. Buddhism believes that freedom begins within. The Buddha spoke about freedom from suffering, freedom from craving that insists this current moment isn't enough, freedom from endless distraction that keeps us from engaging in our own lives, freedom from shame that tells us we're somehow incomplete, freedom from fear that narrows our vision, or compulsive habits that run our lives while convincing us that we're choosing those habits. But this freedom is not simply an escape. It creates space for something beautiful. It creates the space for freedom to be fully present, freedom to love without needing to possess, freedom to respond wisely instead of just reacting, freedom to act with compassion, even and maybe especially when compassion is difficult. We begin to see freedom this way, another question naturally follows. If we value freedom so highly, how are we free? Or are we simply acting out patterns we barely notice? Think of how much of your life happens on automatic pilot. Someone criticizes us, and before we even know what happened, we're defensive. We feel lonely, so we reach for our phone. We feel anxious, so we make sure we're busy and have 1,000 things on our to-do list. We feel uncomfortable, so we distract ourselves with Netflix. A thought arises, we believe it. An emotion happens, and we become it. The Buddha observed something remarkably modern. Most of our suffering does not come from the moment itself. It comes from the conditioned reactions we have practiced thousands of times. Reaction feels inevitable. Freedom begins when we discover there is a space between what happens and how we respond. In that small space lives choice. In that space lives intention, and perhaps that is where true freedom actually begins. Many of the prisons we inhabit are not built by governments or circumstances, they are built inside us. We build them ourselves. We create identities that become too small for who we actually are. I'm the successful one. I'm the one who always disappoints. I'm anxious, I'm broken, I'm strong, I am whatever. Those stories may have once protected us, but over time they become cages. We become imprisoned by expectations, our own and the expectations of others. We become attached to who we think we should be. We replay regrets from years ago as though they could rewrite the past and rehearse fears about a future that has not yet arrived. Some of us are trapped in addictions, not only to substances, but to things like achievement, approval, certainty, outrage, entertainment, or being right. I'm addicted to being right. None of those cages have locks, though. We could step out anytime we want to, but we don't. We carry them with us. The remarkable thing is Buddhism doesn't ask us to hate that part of ourselves. It asks us just to notice it, because awareness itself begins to loosen the bars of the cage inside our own hearts. The roots of freedom begin inside the self, not because the outer world doesn't matter. It absolutely does. As Unitarians, we care deeply about justice, equity, dignity, and the flourishing of all people. We work to create a world where freedom is shared more widely, but inner freedom and outer justice are not competitors. They nourish one another. People who are less ruled by fear are more courageous. People who are less trapped by anger can work longer for justice without being consumed by hatred. People who are less attached to ego can listen more deeply. People who know compassion for themselves often discover greater compassion for others. Every lasting movement toward freedom begins in the human heart. History gives us many examples of people who remained inwardly free despite profound external constraints. Their bodies could be defined, their choices could be limited, but something essential remained untouched. That inner freedom gave them the strength to forgive, to persevere, to love, and to hope. This is one of Buddhism's most hopeful teachings. Freedom does not depend on perfect conditions. It grows wherever awareness grows. It appears whenever we stop believing that every thought deserves our obedience. It deepens whenever we meet ourselves with honesty instead of judgment. So how do we cultivate this freedom? Buddhism doesn't offer a dramatic, flourishing breakthrough. It offers a path. The Buddha called it the Noble Eightfold Path. Not 8 separate steps, but 8 dimensions of moving through life toward greater freedom. They are seeing clearly, setting wise intentions, speaking truthfully and kindly, acting ethically, choosing work that does not cause harm, making steady effort, practicing mindful awareness, and cultivating deep concentration. These are not rules imposed from outside. They are practices that gradually untangle the knots of suffering we carry within our own hearts and souls. The Vietnamese Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh often said, "The way out is in." Not because we ignore the external world, but because the quality of our internal world and our presence shapes every action we take. If we wish for a freer world, we begin by becoming a little bit more free ourselves. One conversation at a time, one breath at a time, one compassionate response instead of one habitual reaction. So what does liberation actually feel like? Perhaps not fireworks, perhaps not perfection, perhaps liberation feels surprisingly ordinary. It's the moment that we no longer need to win every argument. I'm still waiting for that. It's the moment we forgive ourselves enough to begin again. The moment we notice fear without allowing it to drive the car. The moment we can sit quietly without needing to escape from ourselves. The moment another person's suffering matters as much as our own. In Buddhism, freedom and compassion grow together. The freer we become from our own fear and grasping, the more available we become to others. Compassion is not the opposite of freedom. It is freedom's greatest expression. So maybe the better question for today is not, am I free? Perhaps the best question is, what would make me just a little bit more free today? Could I let go of one resentment? Could I pause before reacting? Could I notice an anxious story my mind is telling without believing it? Could I offer the same kindness to myself that I would to a dear friend? Freedom rarely arrives all at once. It grows through ordinary moments of awareness, small acts of courage, and small acts of letting go. As we leave today and return to a world that remains uncertain, may we remember that we cannot always choose the conditions of our lives. We can cultivate the freedom with which we choose to meet them. May we find freedom from fear, craving, and the stories that keep us small. May we discover the freedom to love more generously, to respond more wisely, and to live more compassionately. And may that inner freedom become a gift, not only for ourselves, but for everyone whose lives touch our own. Blessed be.
What a blessing it is to be able to be of service with my wonderful worship associate. She helped me to understand that if I didn't stand up, he would never quit playing. But that's good, because he's a great player, and I was getting a lot out of it. And I'm also a little indebted to Lloyd this morning, because you provided an opportunity to deal with my anxiety. Because, it's getting close to the go time, and I'm thinking, I only know one song, and it kind of goes like, Mama's got a chicken, she thought it was a duck, she put it on the table with its legs sticking up. Papa broke his glasses when he fell down drunk, tried to drown a kitty cat, turned out to be a skunk. You gotta watch what you're doing. That's almost what we had for our contemplatory music this morning, but Lloyd comes sliding in and saved us all from that trouble. So it's a good morning. It's a good morning to be alive, and it's a good morning to be a Unitarian. Although Unitarians got it a little bit rough. In most traditions, you come to church to get answers. There's someone there who's going to tell you how the thing works. They're going to reveal God's plan for your community, for your life. They're going to give you insights into the divine nature of the whole universe. And in Unitarian church, we spend a great deal of time taking that stuff away. You usually end up leaving here with more questions than you had answers when you come in. And that's our burden. We have a burden of freedom. And there was a great book written called Escape from Freedom. And basically it said when people get scared, they react in a way that's not free. And I'm not sure, but that hypothesis seems to be manifesting all over the place. As the world gets to be a scarier place, people look for scapegoats and mischief and the ability to exert their will over other people. And this is a hard time. But that's not the work of this morning. The work of this morning has to do with our own journeys. Now that was a fantastic, I don't even know what part of the service it was, but whatever she did was pretty good. But how do we relate that? Yeah, let's give a little, I don't know, we're Unitarians, so we can do things differently. And for those who are new, I have a little problem with emotional regulation, so there is a slight possibility that I'll start crying if I think about something important. But we do things a little differently. There's a little more freedom in our service. But what I'd like to do, if I can, because there's really, it's easy and hard to give a sermon to Unitarians because, one, they have a lot to work with. These are NPR kind of people. They know a lot about history. They know a lot about things, and you can use a lot of allusions. But as a result, it's very hard to give them anything they don't already have in terms of content. So we're going to take a minute and try to go inside ourselves. So we're going to slow down a little bit and breathe. And as we think about the concepts that were shared earlier, I want you to try to get in touch with what is being revealed to you about where your freedom comes. What area of life do you need to take action in? What responsibility of freedom have you been laying down, have been covering up, have been swamping with distraction? It is in the quiet that we hear the whispers of our soul, the mystery of mysteries that talks to us about what we should do. What can you let go of? I know you may be at 1,000 in Candy Crush level of expertise, but maybe that's some time that you could redeem. Where is your money going? Can you reinvest some of that? I've made a very unfortunate investment in what I call the anal orifice of the industrial complex. It is the drive-through at McDonald's. Some of these corporations will chew up the environment and poop it out to people who are driving in drive-throughs till they poison their bodies with it. Not a good investment. When I got quiet, my greater power indicated to me that was an area that I could let go of, get some financial and physical health freedom from. But that may not be where your journey is. Some of you may be trapped in weird relationships that are bringing you down. There's freedom that comes sometimes from letting go. There may be relationships that you need to pick up. Some of you may need to focus internally. You know, as we age, at some point, our worlds begin to shrink. My dad taught me how to live, and he taught me how to die. And as he progressed through the season of loss that comes with advanced aging, his ability to let go of things demonstrated the power of freedom that I had never seen before. He let go of the car, he let go of his house, he let go of his memory, he let go of the ability to read, and he kept finding everything. And towards the end, he said to me, "Andy, I'm glad I made friends with my breath," because he said, that's about all I have left. And that in football, which is really weird, but he said, football, you can look at any time and you can see who's playing who, what the score is, what down it is. He says, it's just a, he said, I never liked football when I could remember things, but now that I have dementia, this is my favorite activity. So I'm holding out for 3 things. 1, to be able to let go when I need to. 2, cataract surgery apparently is one of the great things of old age. You eventually go blind and then you can get it back. So he said that was the only thing that he said worked in the medical profession for him. And football, which I've never watched in my whole life, but I'm planning on when I go demented. So, but that's my journey. What is your journey? And we're a little sparse today, but when we were a fellowship and I was a little kid, we didn't meet in the summer times. Remember my dad saying to me, Andy, we as Unitarians agree not to sin in the summertime, so we don't need to go to church. And for some of you, you are also recovering from your freedom of your previous religion. Some of the shame and guilt that was given to you as a child is a part of your journey of freedom. But I'm honored today to be a part of this fellowship. Because in addition to the insight and where I need to go to be free, freedom by itself is not enough to be successful. It is like a cord that is spun together. So we must take our freedom and twist it with our courage. We must twist it with our insight. Courage and freedom without insight can be cruel. There are many courageous people who think they're free doing a great deal of mischief in this world because they lack insight. So you can see how virtues do not operate independently of each other. And finally, we weave that with action. And as we tie together the various threads of today's service, let us pause and think about fire and our friends in this town. We cannot be fully free until everyone is free. Free from fear. Free from violence committed through organizations that are meant to do good. And we need to increase our personal resolve, clear the decks a little bit, and be prepared to be of assistance to our brothers and sisters who are currently suffering from this time in our country. So as we prepare to wrap up this sermon, I have one thing left to do, otherwise it will be a breach in the tradition, and that is I have to somehow make an insect reference to this. I haven't mentioned anything about bugs yet, and that would be a breach. So I am reflecting on orchids in the tropical rainforests. And there is an orchid. It is a weird-shaped plant that emits an odor that is quite beautiful. And there is a green metallic bee that is attracted to the smell of this orchid. Because somehow this bee has learned that if he smells like this orchid, he gets girlfriends. Which is very important to green bees for some reason. As an adolescent, I thought it was pretty important too, and if I'd knew this orchid trick, I might have had a little more success. Well, these bees will come to this orchid, and they will try to get some of this orchid juice on them, but it's sticky. And they will fall into the orchid and become trapped, which in the tropical rainforest is not a good thing because some plants dissolve those insects and eat them. But this orchid is not doing that. This orchid is playing its own game of romance. Orchids have a difficulty, being smoochy with each other because they're rooted to the ground. And they can't go to a dating service or get online and look at Tinder or anything else. They have to somehow engage with bees to help them. So this little green bee gets caught in the slime, and there's only one way out. So he'll crawl through this little tunnel, and just about the time he's leaving, this orchid will grab him. And then it'll glue pollen packs on its back. So it's a green bee with bright yellow pollen packs. And then it'll fly off to another orchid in order to continue this process of getting smelly so that he can have girlfriends, so that he can make more bees and all that sort of stuff. And those pollen packs will get scraped off, and there's more orchids. Now, that's a very interesting story, and now I have to try to relate it to reality in some way, which is going to be a little more difficult. But as I think about this metaphor, it is kind of like the Unitarians. Not that we're always looking for romance, but it has happened from time to time. But that we work together in odd ways. And that somehow there's a partnership between orchids and little green bees to get the work of life done. And likewise, through all of our efforts and all of our organizations, that's what we're doing, is we're trying to figure out a path in order to get life done together. Amen. So what do we do now?
Now we rise in body or spirit for number 169.
Okay, now we rise in body and spirit to sing 169, We Shall Overcome. shall all be free. We shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall all be free someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday.
Please remain standing as we extinguish our chalice flame and speak together the words in our order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry within our hearts until we are together again.
Not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring when we capitalism. When we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. But not only that,
Please join us for fun and food in the fellowship hall.
Yeah, we are a good team.